posted as per sunshine rules. I did make a few adjustments, and you'll see them highlighted in a light gray color. I think there's 3 of them. So let's go ahead and get started. So we'll go through the appointees list. Obviously, I'm the Chief Recovery Officer, Nancy Rabel. I'm so happy to introduce the new superintendent, Mrs. Sonia Coleman. She is joining us here today. Sonia, do you want to make a few quick remarks?
Well, you can't see me. I'm sitting across from Nancy. I truly am in the room. And as I've said so many times before, I'm truly happy to be here. I know you guys have heard that from others in the past, but what I will say is I am going to put actions behind my words, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay. So welcome. Anybody just real quickly have any comments for Sonia before we continue on the list? Okay. We have 2 board member appointees. It doesn't look as though they are joining us today. We also have a principal representative, Heather Johnston, and I don't see Heather with us today either. She's at a workshop, according to Mrs. Coleman. Thank you for that. And business office official, because the district is transitioning away from the contracted services model, we are looking a little bit different here these days. Joining us this evening is Sandy Larcade, and Sandy is the assistant business manager. Sandy, do you want to make any remarks?
Hi, everybody.
To the point. Okay, IU reps, I do not see them with us this evening. Our charter school rep, I do see Dr. Melissa Garvin. We also have everybody. Thank you very much, Melissa. Special ed advocate, Jessica Taylor.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Our additional superintendent, Dr. Caroline Johns, she did notify us, as I said earlier, in advance that she had an appointment that overlapped a little bit, so we do expect her to join us shortly. 2 residents. We know that Ms. Tina Nagel has joined us in the past. I do not see her online with us today. And also we have 1 vacant position. That position has been posted through the IU as per the Legislative Act 141. It's the IU's responsibility to fill that appointee slot. And then, of course, we have our Sto-Rox teacher representative, Maria Kotak.
Hi.
Hello. All right, I'm going to jump right into the agenda after I introduce our technical support folks. These individuals are made available to us by the PA Department of Education. When I spoke publicly at a board meeting last week, talked about the dream team truly that is being built here on site in the district. And there were 2 criteria, if you will, or 2 attributes that I referenced in terms of my vernacular, what represents a dream team. And those are people who are super smart and highly ethical. I say that because these assigned technical support representatives are invaluable to the district. They fit that mold, super intelligent, highly ethical. And when you think about a district, any organization actually really trying to make ground very, very quickly, there's a lot to do. There's help that is needed. Certainly by the time it would take to train all of us to the level of expertise that they have, a lot of time would have been wasted. We are very appreciative that the Department of Ed has provided the services of Stephen Ramirez and Hannah Friedrich. So they are joining us again tonight. Stephen, is Hannah with us or no, it's just you, is that right?
I believe it's just me for the moment. But I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Dr. Rabel, for that. And I'm glad to be here, everyone.
And I didn't mean to say just Stephen, so we appreciate both of you very much. Wessel and Company, as we transition from a remote contracted services model specific to business operations, we have the extra support again provided by the Department of Education in the form of Michael Lamb and then Eddie Denner. On the original agenda that was posted, I failed to put Eddie's name on there, so I want to note Eddie's involvement. Both very much appreciated. They're helping Sandy and the team here to make that shift and to tie up loose ends, make sure that things are not missed. Michael is a CPA and Eddie is a retired business manager. We appreciate their help very much. Okay, I'm going to go straight into the agenda. Some of these updates I've already hinted at. The new team, the dream team, being in place. The superintendent led by Mrs. Coleman. She's filling that position, of course. And then the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, I did allude to this last month. We have Mr. Tony Paul. Director of Student Services, Title IX Coordinator. That position has been filled. I think last month we just recognized it as TBD. Brittany Linson-Bigler, most recently she was at Keystone Oaks, very dynamic, enthusiastic, very excited. We also are in the process of vetting business manager candidates. And it's interesting, I'm not sure of everyone's experience with posting, let's say, financial related type positions, but even when I was actively working and not retired, when we would post those positions, I'm not sure how the community at large would interpret that, but there would be a lot of interest from people that really did not have what a school district needs in terms of training, just understanding some of the nuances and some of the larger pieces. And we have seen that there were quite a few individuals who did apply, they did not meet our standard. I said that kindly, and I mean it kindly, but somebody who's going to run a $39 million organization, we did not give a second look to. There were a handful. There was a handful, I guess is correct. And we started the vetting process. We are down to 2 finalists, and we are actually interviewing them again after this meeting concludes. And we're going to see if we can make a decision about who to recommend to the board. Both of them, I'll just give you a really quick preview. Obviously, I'm not going to mention them by name, but they have MBAs. Neither has direct school district experience. However, some of the skills and the experiences are really impressive, and we're thinking that those basic skills and even the high-tech skills are likely transferable. We know there's a lot of support in place, whether it comes from Wessel and or the IU or even PASBO. We're going to pick a candidate who, again, meets those criteria: super smart, highly ethical. Any questions about anything referencing the new administrative team? Let me just add one other remark. Given that the 2 finalists don't have direct school district experience and they are not currently employed in a district, we don't have to have concerns about contracts and 60-day releases and things like that. So that is a benefit, if you will. And realistically, if we have the right candidate identified, the board would be consulted, and hiring and being on site, actively involved, could be sooner rather than later. So the district has made a commitment that they do not want to rush into hiring any candidate for any of these high-ranking positions that just doesn't feel like a good fit, doesn't have the skills, the attributes that we're looking for. So I think it's a good thing that the district is taking its time to vet the candidates and to make sure that it feels like a good fit. The SASI initiative, boy, this up and down on this. We know there have been major changes at the federal level and they trickle down. And this is a program, we've talked about it in the past. It is the initial source of funding is at the federal government. It's channeled through the Commonwealth. And at the Commonwealth level, there's a list of districts who qualify. A lot of it has to do with poverty rates. And so Sto-Rox is on that list. And we're so excited because we know that there's some movement that the district is interested in exploring, whether it's grade levels or district consolidation, I should say, or district consolidation of its offices. Right now, there are central office administrators in different areas, different schools within the district. And truly, for a superintendent, it's hard to convene a meeting, a physical meeting where everybody is accessible and can coordinate calendars. Yes, we have virtual means to do those types of things, but to make it more intimate in terms of planning, getting together, having impromptu meetings. And so the high school lends itself. There's a wing on the first floor that right now could be repurposed. And it is possible that the district offices could move to that area. Visitors, let's say even vendors, contractors could come through security. So that piece is in place. There are restrooms and all those types of things. However, one of the considerations is that one of the rooms that would be repurposed or reassigned has had special education students using that space. And so, of course, we have to have a separate completed, and we have some support from the IU. We have Lucy McDonough helping to guide Brittany so that we can get those things done. But that's kind of exciting. we've been hearing through the summer, and I'm not suggesting anybody's been dishonest. I just think things are happening and changing very rapidly. I think we all agree. So we've been hearing that we could expect to have somebody come on site from this program that includes a team of engineers from Penn State. This opportunity does not include the purchase of equipment or supplies. Rather, it connects districts that probably otherwise wouldn't have the funds to have consultants, architects, engineers come in and talk about space needs. So those we'll present at some point. We have assurances that the money is there. Now I think it is contingent. It's tied to the Harrisburg budget. And once that's resolved, we are going to keep our schedules open so that we can accommodate that team and have them, first of all, look at this space that likely will house the district offices to see if there's something, that we're missing, something that we didn't consider, whether it's, wiring, anything like that. So that is forthcoming. Also, we have movement on the pre-K pilot. The IU partners that we have, Dr. Wendy Smith, have been really, really gracious in understanding one of the challenges this district has is loss of students, declining enrollment. And when you look at the trends, and by grade level, we can see the greatest exodus, if you will, is at the primary school, so the K-3 level. The thought was if we could offer some semblance of a pre-K classroom without increasing staff numbers, because then, we're looking at salary benefits and PSERs, if we could repurpose some of the space there, could we have somebody else facilitate the program? And the board did agree. The recommendation was that the IU would use designated space. Dr. Mumau, the principal there, was actively involved in deciding what that space would be so it wouldn't disrupt the operations there in the school, that if families would be excited to come there, they would be more likely to stay and continue their K-3 experience. So that is moving forward. Excited about that. As I already noted, the second resident appointee, we're just waiting to hear more from the IU in terms of whether or not there have been respondents to the posting on the district website. So now I want to just jump a minute into the amendment status. PFM, we've been working very closely, and I'm laughing because we were talking this morning, we were talking yesterday in the afternoon, and they really are doing the bulk of the work. And I want to be clear about that and give them credit and gratitude as well for reconfiguring a plan that came from 2022. And you wouldn't think, well, that's not very old, but a lot has changed in this district. The other piece to that, we want to look at exit. What are the exact criteria that will make this district eligible for exit? And so I have asked, could we make the plan more clear? Could it articulate so that we could almost have a checkoff list and also specify frequency? Very few things are one and done. Unfortunately, sometimes when you're in crisis, you do it once, you think you've satisfied the requirements, the expectations. No, we need systemic change. Some things need to be embedded in daily practice. And so we also have the burden or the obligation, let's say, to collect evidence to say, look, here is evidence that the district could qualify for the next stage. So that would be exit from financial recovery and then 5 years of monitoring. If that all would go well, then the district would be independent once again. So that is in the process, that the works, if you will. You all have heard from me in the past, in our past monthly meetings. We've talked about themes that would guide or inform those revisions. And then there was a Google Doc. I appreciate several of you did use the Google Doc after that last meeting, and you did represent your thoughts and so forth, your suggestions. So thank you very much. And you see the reference there, June 25th, that was the meeting where the themes were shared. And then also the Google Doc. June 26th in exec session, I shared similar information with the board. And that was by design to do it in exec session, because I'm not authorized at this point to release any of this preliminary language to the community, to the public. It has to go through a vetting process at the state level as well. A legal team is reviewing and weighing in calculations that are embedded in the document. They are being verified. So all these things have to be in order before this revised plan is released for public review. Now, understand that that release, it doesn't have to be prompted by a board resolution. It will be prompted by me. So once the Department of Ed gives the okay, we are going to post that on the website. We'll probably do like a school messenger communication and try to prompt people to take a look. And there will be a 30-day opportunity for individuals associated with the community, stakeholders, read it, to give feedback, and so forth. Assuming that all goes according to plan, that lands us then the next voting session of the board is September 25th. And then we would hope that it would be in its final form, presented to the board for adoption, and then we move forward. Again, a part of this theme is exit. What do we have to do? It's going to be prescribed exactly. The exciting part is that we had a team from Harrisburg came in today, and they met with members of the new administrative team. There was an opportunity to engage back and forth, Q&A, and so forth. And I think it went really, really well. And I'm going to say this, my immediate supervisor was leading the conversation. And I asked her if she would be willing to go on record to say, is this doable, that once we have the revised plan, is it doable if the district stakeholders implement with fidelity everything that's in there, and they provide evidence of the accomplishments or proof that everything that is in there has been fulfilled? Is it realistic that this district could be eligible for exit within 3 years? And I'm happy to say she said yes. So, the light is there at the end of the tunnel. I know it's been tough. I know there's a lot of negative feelings about things, and there's a stigma about being in financial recovery, but this district is truly on the cusp of turning that corner. So I'm very excited about that. I already gave you the update about the business manager candidate, and it's in gray because it was added after the agenda was posted. I'm going to ask Martha if she could please display the presentation that I shared last week publicly in the board meeting. And for those of you who saw it before, I apologize that you're going to see it again. Okay, so all this was, and you all have had exposure to this. We talked about this way back in January, I think our first meeting together after I started in November. Why was the district assigned financial recovery? And I took this information verbatim out of the letter from former Secretary of Education, Nori Ortega. And this is what he sent to the district leadership. And these are the reasons why the district was designated in financial recovery. Martha, you want to continue that list? Okay. So that means that now things happen. And so what happened next after the district was designated? And you see the reference there to Act 141. That's the legislative act that kind of supersedes everything and dictates what happens. And that's from 2012. So Chief Recovery Officer was assigned. And the thought is that person comes in and helps to guide reform. There's a Financial Recovery Advisory Committee established. Obviously, you know that. You're an appointee to that committee. The plan that I talked about, the original, was from 2022. And similar to the amended plan that we're working on, the plans have to be approved at the state and the local level. And we expect the same themes actually in the amended plan. And those themes are academic goals, financial and operational goals to improve the district operations. And then, of course, we know as we started the meeting that there's extended support offered by the Department of Ed. So it's not just you get this label, we recognize you need help, and here's how we're going to help. So for this district, I did mention who everybody is, by the way, last week, and you just see a running list of how we start every one of our meetings, identifying who the appointees are, joining in the conversation. You know that we meet the last Wednesday generally of each month, 4 o'clock. There's virtual and there's in person. I'm with Sonia here in the district office. The doors are open. Potentially anybody from the community can join us. And as noted, we have to follow the Sunshine Law. Okay, I wanted to offer sample language. Keep in mind there are some newer board members who have limited familiarity with financial recovery. And it's difficult to understand. It's not like anything somebody who has worked for a district not in financial recovery would understand. And to be honest, I think, the experience I had as a superintendent in financial recovery is really what helps me. It gives me familiarity with the model, helps me to understand some of the things that happen, good and bad. So this one, this was really more for the board members to understand that there are things that are prescribed you have to do. And so this particular slide talks about, in the original plan, the references to the surplus. So when you have extra money, because the district is in recovery, you have to look at these bulleted items first before you assign that money. Also, very important and in bold, we've talked about that before at this committee level, there is a directive in there to consider at least a raise to the Act 1 index annually unless the recovery officer advises otherwise. That is a really hard one for all parties involved. Districts generally who are in financial recovery have high poverty within their communities. They cannot tax themselves out of the problems. There have to be other resolution strategies to correct the issues, but you have to keep taxing the community because it is their responsibility to fund the schools. And it's not just in the moment, there's a compounding effect. So if you raise the taxes this year, that amount stays embedded in the base and it continues moving forward. But that one for me, whether I was a superintendent or even now as a recovery officer, that is a very hard one for me. Okay, the extended support, as we said, the recovery officer position, it has to be filled. And for Sto-Rox, I'm the third one in that position. The Department of Ed also did guarantee a loan for the district way back in 2017. And that's part of the Intercept program, meaning that when the district was looking at funders, somebody to extend a loan, they had the guarantee from the Department of Ed that they wouldn't have to wait for the district to make their mortgage payment, if you will. That money comes directly from the state. So it's a guarantee that they will be paid. Also the annual empowerment grants, when you look at that, $2 million a year, every year starting in 1920, that was money to keep the doors open. 24-25 is highlighted in yellow. That's just a reminder to me to mention that the amount for this year, although it was not exactly those dollars, in February, the board followed the recommendation to assign those, restrict spending with those dollars, $2 million, and they are sitting in a Fund 33, and so they cannot be touched. One of the reasons we wanted to do that is that's evidence that the district did not need those funds to meet operating costs this year. Thinking again about exit from recovery. The transitional loan, that again is extra money, was $1 million given to the district in November 2022. There was an issue though, the district did not follow the requirements, which included any interest earned on those funds until they were exhausted. That money had to be returned to the Department of Ed on a quarterly basis. That never happened. So today when we had our guests from the Department of Ed here, we gave them the check to take that back to the finance people in Harrisburg, and hopefully we can check that box and that's taken care of. And then as I referenced PFM, also Wessel and Company, you can see some of the technical support services. Again, these are available to the district at no cost. Okay, so exit criteria, I believe we've talked about this before, just want to reiterate it real quickly. Anything in black, I'm not concerned about. I think there's evidence. And again, when I'm talking about evidence, I'm tying it into the original recovery plan. I don't expect any change with the extra criteria. I mean, they are what they are. That hasn't changed. And the red designation is just, again, my assessment in this moment of where we are. We've talked about the projections. That's the challenge. We have to be able to project out 5 years to say the district can still meet its operating costs annually. So that is key, and we're just not there yet. Can we get there? Absolutely. Okay, the two other in red, I just want to look at that. I talked about the projections, the substantial progress. That is a concern that we have. There is evidence that the graduation rate has come down, which is a positive thing. And let me clarify that. In the original recovery plan, there's language that questions the past reported graduation rates. When the PSSA and the Keystone scores were so low, how is it that the district's graduation rate exceeded the state average? Something didn't make sense. So the suggestion is that kids were promoted based on other factors, and it's not clear what those other factors were. The academic performance, we have to have evidence, and that's where we're struggling right now. Okay, and just summarizing everything I just said to you, academic growth, there's limited evidence, financial projections, you can see that's problematic. Some other things that are going to factor into those projections, the enrollment, I've already referenced that. There is declining enrollment. And we know that across the county and the region, there's declining enrollment. In most districts, the birth rates are lower. People are having fewer children. The capital repairs, we've talked about that before. When there was a DCED grant secured by the district, the decision was made, and I think it was a good decision to focus on the newer buildings, the upper elementary and the primary, but that left a long list of repairs that need to be completed at the junior, senior high school. So that's a concern we have to address. This one, I just want to give an attaboy, kudos to everyone on the team here at the district, the operational efficiencies and effectiveness, they are improving every day. My workspace is down. I call it the business office, but I guess it's a classroom that was converted. So we have Martha in there, we have Sandy in there, Sonia's in and out, we have Tony Paul down there, we have Mike from security, Zach's in and out down there. So I get to hear a lot of things, whether or not I'm directly involved, probably not in all cases, but I get to hear. And the vibe is becoming more and more positive, more efficient. Sandy and Martha are training right now specific to business office, accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, HR, and to hear them with the trainers from JMA asking me really, really good questions, making recommendations about how to modify things, talking about procedural manuals, writing down the steps involved. That is music to my ears. So I applaud everybody who's actively involved in that. Okay, these are just some sample charts, graphs. Some of these you've seen before. We had PFM do an update for us. Some of the data tables, I want to say January or February, and some have been updated even further. Just kind of backing up the claims that I've had that we have limited evidence about academic growth. Mark, you want to advance? Okay, the audited financials, you have seen some semblance of this before, but we did plug in some new information. So you can see the trend. Try to put some information in there that might be relevant, helpful to you. You know, that bond that we talked about, the Intercept program, that money was given in 16-17, the GOB 2017. You can see negative, less negative, more negative, more negative, and then the label of the financial watch was assigned, and then financial recovery. You see when the $2 million annual empowerment grants start, and you can see the positive impact of those. And obviously not just Sto-Rox, but all districts benefited from the ESSER money, and you can see the impact there. That's the part that is challenging, because if you see that, oh my goodness, positive 12.9 million looks great. But think about the $7 million in repairs needed at junior, senior high school and other things, and that money will go very, very quickly. Also, I think we've talked about it before, that, you know, the guideline is in terms of unassigned fund balance, 8% is the threshold. So the district has an approximate budget of 39 million. And so we are exceeding that right now, unassigned fund balance guideline. So we're going to be working with the Wessel folks, Michael Lamb, to decide how much money we're going to ask the board to restrict it, put it in Fund 33. The goal would be to have at least 7 million in case something catastrophic would happen. There'd be a sense of urgency beyond what there already is. Immediate repairs would have to be made at the high school. The money will be in there, and that's consistent with the recovery plan guidance about surplus. And then we've been asking JMA, the business contractor who had provided services in the past. The district did not renew them, but they are helping with transition and training. We've asked them, so how did the district end up June 30th, 2025? And Sonia and I were in a meeting, I think Sandy and Martha as well. And the representative said, I think we're going to have a $1.5 million surplus. So we're sharing that. It's not been audited, so I can't stand by that 100%. But again, look at the bottom two, the tally, when you look at it, about $24 million in extra money that was not anticipated. So you pull that out and you think about where would the district be. It feels discouraging, but the capacity is here. We can turn the corner. I feel 100% confident about that. Okay, just more on the charter school tuition costs. That's a main driver in the district's budget. Martha, you want to advance, please? Capital improvement plan, I've already hinted at this. When you look at the tally of what we know in the moment, and we know things can break at any time, that's where we're at. A little bit more on enrollment, population trends, and so forth. And everybody we know is dealing with this. The federal funds, certainly a district such as Sto-Rox is heavily reliant on those federal dollars. Those in red are up in the air. We are hearing optimistic remarks, suggestions that some of that money will be unfrozen at least. But for Sto-Rox specifically, if you would add up the positions that are tied to that, it's a huge deal. Within the district, I've been telling everybody, when we look at the annual operating costs and being in a position to qualify for exit, we need $1 surplus at the end of every fiscal year. So every June 30th, we hope for that particular fiscal year, we're plus $1 minimally. So when the budget was originally passed, we were told from our representatives at JMA that there was probably around $17,000 of known wiggle room in there. Well, kind of matched up because the cost that Zach Simpson here projected to move the district offices was about that same amount. So we thought, okay, that's great. That's not going to set us back. And then you get the news about the federal programs. So definitely that is something that the district is going to be very close in terms of monitoring. All right, so just a little bit more about the option to amend, and that first quote is taken verbatim. The benefit, and I see this very clearly, I hope you do as well, more prescriptive, more closely aligned with current needs and thinking. If we go back to the original plan, 2022, and there was a monitoring sheet that went with that. So tied to those initiatives, those action plan updates, if you will, the information I inherited said the district isn't interested in having a pre-K program on site. Although it was embedded in the original plan, it was stated that the district had no interest. That doesn't make sense. The Foster building is another one. That's a fourth school here that is not actively used by the district. They do lease space, but it is aging as well. So it doesn't make sense, I don't think, to keep that building on the books. But again, the notes that I inherited said, no, the district has decided to keep the building. And then contracted services. This is one, it just all depends on the situation. There's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes you'll hear contracted services in a public school are a very good thing. You don't have to pay PSERS, you don't have to pay benefits, but there's a backside to that as well. You're not building internal capacity. You're 100% reliant on somebody to perform key functions. And there's really not a checks and balance system in most cases where you can verify the work, and there's not that multi-layered approach. And then grade level restructure, that we know that there's local interest in exploring some more of that. When the PFM folks did a study, they started that in October, I believe. We did the update here in this committee, and the recommendation was not to move forward with that. And the reasons were described. Some had to do with HR, certifications, transportation. A lot of kids walk to the junior, senior high school. If they have to go up on the hill to Kennedy Township, they're going to need transportation to get there. So not there yet, but still going to respect the board's wishes and explore that a little bit, gain some more information. What is the true impact? You will see language in the amended financial recovery about taking minimally 12 months. When there are larger initiatives being explored or considered, slowing it down, putting together an actual plan that says who's going to do what, in what order, timeline, report back, collection of stakeholder feedback, and so forth. So we want to make sure the process includes a significant vetting period. Again, I referenced this earlier, more clearly define expectations, frequency, how often should things be done. One of the things that the district has started doing, and I'm very glad, I think it's a great move, is creating tickler file systems. If you do this every August, make sure you remember to do it next August. And revisiting examples, the org chart, job descriptions. Those things should be done regularly. When people leave, do you automatically fill the position? Is the district taking the time to look at staffing needs, declining enrollment, student needs? How many students with IEPs? Do we still need the same number of staff to support them? And then again, the opportunity to demonstrate the ability to sustain and to operate independently in the absence of extended support. The $2 million moving it, that's financial. We didn't need that this year. That's a good thing. We can show evidence of that. And then we want to embed a mechanism to track progress and again, gather that evidence that supports future consideration of exit. Okay, I already went over this again. You can take a look at that. And in gray, I just highlighted that special note. This was from the original agenda that was released publicly more than 24 hours ago. And certainly this has already happened. So I wanted to draw attention to that. Are there any questions, any comments?
I have a question, and it goes back to the enrollment question. They are redoing Hayes Manor. Is there any projections of what will they be bringing back a student population, or has that not been looked at once it reopens?
I'm going to defer to Stephen on that and let him answer that. But I will say that I did hear the board president say that that had major impact on the enrollment. Stephen, any thoughts on that?
Our study at the time did not include kind of projections and anticipating sort of what exactly could happen. It's there were too many variables for us to really consider, but I think it is a valid question, and we know that it would change the analysis, but we don't know by how much at this point, and we didn't want to make any claims that were not substantially backed up.
So Heather, let me just add another piece of information. So as part of my role, the recovery officer here, I have to complete a report that I send to the Secretary of Education every month. And so it's reflective of what's happened in the district the month before. And there are certain categories that I have to populate, I have to update. One of them is enrollment. And the July report is due this Friday. So I have that here, and you won't be able to see it by design because it's really a rough format. But let me just read something to you from that. Sonia and I just went over these. So when I look at the report that I submitted at the beginning of July on behalf of June, the enrollment for K-3 was 316. As of today, the report I just received, it's 268. The upper elementary, I last did the report, it was 199. It's now 204. Middle, junior, senior high school, I guess I should say, was at 394, and it's now 403. So when you compare the total K-12 who are attending on site, had been 909, now it is 875. So that is consistent with the trend that Stephen and Hannah have identified. And it's concerning. There was a mechanism included in the original recovery plan 2022 about having some type of intervention, getting information from families who are withdrawing. Tell us more. And we do have a tool. Sonia may opt to tweak it. Certainly that's her prerogative to do it. But Ed Pierce is one of the people who interfaces with individuals when they are withdrawing. And it kind of, the goal is to hone it in on what specifically caused you to consider other options. In some cases, to be honest, I mean, we did this in the district I came from, somebody physically moves. There's nothing you're going to do about that if somebody's moving over to Bellevue. The district is not responsible for that. However, if somebody talks about, and the categories are there, so, Ed could kind of prompt the individuals. Was it a perception of safety, security? Does it have to do with academics? Does it have to do with extracurriculars? And one of the things that we're doing as part of the amended recovery plan is referencing dashboards. So the district will have key information, data that will be updated and populated, and we'll be able to look ourselves. Did we improve this month? Did we not? Or are we the same? And that's going to be a driving force. But just that information today, I don't want to say alarming, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but it's disappointing. We've got to stop this trend. And hopefully having the pre-K up elementary, the families that choose to do that, hopefully they'll stay for K through 3 there in that building and then continue through the system.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so it looks like we're ending a little bit early today, and we typically go to 5 o'clock. The next meeting, the reminder is there. It's Wednesday, August 27th at 4 p.m. The format, virtual and open link. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.